Welcome into another Road to the Draft, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith, and we have continued further down our road. We got on the on-ramp last week. Now we're going further down the road, which means that last week we kind of looked at some films, some guys we thought we'd seen around, multiple mock drafts of being the most likely potentially in some of those mock drafts. Well, now we have your mock draft, the best of all the mock drafts, obviously. That is what we're going to be going through today. We obviously are not going to go through all 32 picks. So you've already pre-filled in a few. We're going to go through some of the others. And we have this list of the available people for you to plug in. Where did we find this list?
This is from Daniel Jeremiah's most recent, just on Monday, dropped top 50, his big board, if you will, on NFL.com. Check that out. Some of the names have already been dragged, but this is where we got it from. And then this is my draft, and I filled in a lot of it because you probably don't want to see me drag every single name, but there's some we left blank because we wanted to discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, so let's start up here at the top with the almighty top 3 picks that always end up being really fun.
Okay, now I will say that this post was posted about 12 days ago. I have a new mock draft coming. I've already turned it in. It's coming in 2 days, so check that out on Buccaneers.com, and I will admit that some picks have changed, but the first time I went through this, I did think that the 2 quarterbacks were going to go in the top 3 picks.
Okay.
So I have the Titans going with Cam Ward. I think they probably would like to, move on from Will Levis and try again there. And then I don't have Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland because I think there is eventually going to be something to that Sanders effect about how maybe they don't want to go to certain places and teams kind of have to factor that in. But the great news for Cleveland is that they don't mind because they get this incredible prospect, one of the best pass rushing prospects in a while, and Myles Garrett is asking for a trade. So if they do end up trading him, there's your ready-made replacement. He's a fantastic player with just amazing burst around the edge and ability to get around the corner. So he's probably going to be a game wrecker right from his rookie season. Then the Giants, who've been trying to get their quarterback situation right for a while, do take the next quarterback, and that is Shedeur Sanders from California.
From Colorado.
Colorado, California, whatever.
Same thing, one of those C's.
So there's your top 3 picks.
All right, and so now it looks like your next ones you've left blank. I'm noticing a bit of a theme potentially there. Let's take a look at our division.
Right, we want to know what our division's going to be.
What are they going to do? So starting with the Panthers.
Panthers and the Saints both end up in the top 10. So they've got a lot of options here.
There was a lot of competition for those top 10 picks this year, too. The way that the Panthers season started, we really thought they were going to be.
It's hard to believe they're down here at 8,
down here at 8.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options here for the Panthers, but I had them going with an edge rusher because this is a really good draft for edge rushers. And in this case, James Pierce of Tennessee, one of the higher ranked ones, but I think you're going to see 5, 6, 7 of them go in the first round. Now, then we get to the Saints, who they've got a lot of needs on defense, and they have such a restrictive cap situation that it's really going to be hard for them to rebuild through free agency. They may even have to lose some of the players that they have to have. Their safeties are either free agents or getting up there. And so I think they could really use help in their secondary, and this is a really dynamic player, Malachi Starks. I could absolutely see him going in the top 10, even though safeties don't normally do so.
Interesting. Yeah. So now if we scroll down a little bit, our final remaining person from the division, the Falcons, they threw a fun little wrench into the mix last year. Do you see them making the headlines this year?
I can't imagine they'll do anything as shocking as when they took Michael Penix 8th overall about a month after they'd given Kirk Cousins like $100 million, right? So what I think they'll do is what everybody has been predicting for the Falcons year after year. They have really had a hard time getting an edge rush going, a pass rush in general, and that's been a yearly problem year after year for them. So with this draft with so many good options, I think they go with Mike Green from Marshall, if he's still there. I got to admit, in my next mock draft, he's going to go higher than that. Since the Senior Bowl, he's really shut up, and he led the nation in sacks last year.
Yeah,
so
it's a big deal.
The production is there.
I've already noticed in these ones we've done so far, you've mentioned multiple edge rushers.
I'm saying.
And you also mentioned how many you thought might be going in this first round. So that probably sounds like there's potentially even more you're seeing going here. And it's a position that we've discussed the Bucs potentially being interested in.
That's why it's so relevant, because you will probably, our brain trust will probably come up with their definitely will come up with their rankings of how these guys, how they like them. It might not be the way I'm showing you here. And if the ones they want are all gone, that's definitely a position of need for the Buccaneers. But if the guys they're hoping for in this range go in this range, then it might not happen. And that's why I left these blank, because in my mock draft, after Mike Green, I also have the Cardinals taking Shamar Stewart, and The Bengals taking Michael Williams from Georgia. Lots of Georgia guys.
Well,
Georgia
that's
guys.
already a lot of edge guys off the board.
So 3 in a row just right before us. So if we're sitting there, or if our brain trust is sitting there in the draft room thinking we got a real good shot at an edge, should we take an edge? Should we take a cornerback? Should we take a linebacker? This might be where they, tips the scales and the Buccaneers don't take an edge rusher.
Right, or even do they try to trade up a couple spots
Another
the way
good
they have
point,
for somebody
right.
like a Tristan Wirfs, where you're like, we got to get this
Exactly.
guy. There's a run on offensive lineman. We got to do what we want to do. That'll be interesting to see.
That was a perfect example because when we traded up for Tristan Wirfs, if you recall, I believe it was just 14-13.
Yep.
But Jason Light was just too worried, and who knows, he could have been right. Not only that team ahead of us could have taken it, but somebody could have jumped us for him. So,
yeah, so
that's a
that'll be
great
interesting.
point. So if, like, say the Buccaneers loved Michael Williams, you could see him
swapping one or two
because
spots,
pretty
yeah.
much every team is a threat to take an edge.
Yeah.
Even if you have 2 good ones, you still could use another one, right?
Yep.
And it's hard to find them outside the first round.
So
But
now here we
here's
are
where
finally to our Buccaneers.
Yep, and so I'm thinking with the run on edges, the Buccaneers instead go cornerback, and the one I picked in my first mock draft was Notre Dame's Benjamin Morrison. He's, as we talked about last week, the issue there is that he hurt his hip and had hip surgery in October. So that makes him a bit of a question mark, and it makes the combine, which is just starting now, important for him in terms of not the workouts, but the medicals.
Yeah, that'll
but
be
if you get
interesting.
good medicals, maybe his stock goes up, right? Because before he got hurt, really polished cornerback, great footwork, smooth, enough speed to keep, to catch up speed on deep balls. And so I think he's really, ready to go cornerback as long as he's healthy.
And as we know, you believe you can never have enough
you can never
corners.
have enough
So I
cornerbacks.
think you loved this run on edges to be like,
Yeah.
look, I got my guy. And I also noticed it's very convenient where we stopped scrolling here that as a Mizzou graduate, I noticed that you passed on my guy here, and even looking at the rest of your mock draft, you passed on another Mizzou
Yeah,
person.
a little farther down is Armand Mimbaugh as
It's
well.
fine. It's fine. Now, if they went to Northwestern, I imagine you would have had the Bucs picking them, but
Well,
I'll just ignore that. It's fine.
This is confidence, Casey. What this is confidence that the Bucs are going to get something done with Chris Godwin.
That's true, and I do like that sentiment, so I will allow.
Okay, thank you.
I will allow the scorn you showed.
And I
for
want to say
myself.
just one more time that I have a new mock draft coming up. You can also read Dix's mock draft from last week. I have one coming in 2 days on Thursday. And as I said, all right, maybe I didn't say it, but the first 2 picks are not going to be quarterbacks in
Yes.
that one. And I changed this pick.
Oh, interesting. Look at that tease.
After a couple of weeks of reading up, I found a player that I think maybe is even better fit right there for us.
Interesting. So now, you have to make sure you check out all their other mock drafts that they're posting, and you have to stay tuned for our next road to the draft, because clearly this road is a windy one with some.
By the way,
turnoffs.
who's driving? Because if I'm driving, we're going to get there faster.
That's very true. Let me tell you, people, this man is a speedster, so that's why, we're gonna get to the draft very quickly if he's in charge. All right, that's gonna do it for us on this edition of Road to the Draft. We'll see you next time.